Hey students, it's Eric Magidson, and it's time to rock and roll. No, just kidding. I've been listening to some rock and roll all morning and grading your quizzes. Just wanted to provide a solution video for quiz 1 through 4. So if the rock and roll gets in the way, just deal with it. So here we go. This is the sheet 1 of the quiz, and basically we had the five basic functions that we needed to do. I'm going to go up and just look at the data real quick. I see I have some empty points in my data, but I want to include those, making sure that if those data points were to come in, that they are also included. So the first formula is equals sum. I'm going to come up and manually select the range of values I want and close that fence like we've talked about. And make sure that value's right, which I know it is. I'm going to come down here. This is equals average. Remember, I always like to type in the formula so I know I'm typing in the formula I expect it to be. Come up here, I can select the information again. Remember, one of the shortcuts you might want to apply is if we know the range is going to be constant, not change, we can go ahead and copy that range in the formula there. And for example, on equals min, so I'm going to apply the min formula here, I can just at that point say Control V. I get the same range and move on. Same thing with max. Now folks, I am going quick because I want to get through with this video, but please go ahead and pause the video, bring up your quiz or a blank quiz, it's still open for you, and you can do it again. Here's count. So there we go, the range is correct, and say okay. Now at this point, I want to make sure that I audit these, because as you can see, the range is the same except the column changes on each one. That means that I can take these formulas, fill them over, and then finally just audit these. Now I did see on a lot of your homework, the issue was you simply did not go back and audit, so one wrong answer here became wrong answers all the way across. So remember, I can hit the Control tilde. The tilde is the button right above the tab. So I can hit Control Tab. I can come over and audit. So equals sum M2 to M70 57, M2 to M57, and so on in the M column. So I know that's correct. Remember, I can also just double click on one and get the graphical representation of the formula range. So there we are. We're in good shape and ready to move on to sheet 2. Now on sheet 2, most of you got excuse me, most of you got this correct in that you did the formula equals the number of stocks purchased times the current price of the stock, and you filled that down. Now where the challenge was here. And we need to look at a quick critical thinking thing before we even define the formula that we want to use here. And that is, when I purchased these stocks originally, it was $257.24. Now the stock price is $325. Clearly, I've made a profit, which means in here I should see a positive number. Okay, so the profit and loss for the total stocks is the current total minus the purchase total. Not whichever number is smaller minus the larger or larger minus the smaller. It is the current total minus the purchase total. Now in this case I get a positive, and if I look back, well, I purchased it for 78 and it's now worth 98. I made money, so that is a profit. Now I can go audit, say this last one, and I can see that what I purchased it for is more than what it's worth now. So if it's more than what it's worth now, I incurred a loss. Finally, I want to go ahead and calculate the grand total of all the stocks that I've purchased. Have I made money or lost money? So I'm going to say equals. This is a standard sum formula. I'm going to add up both the positives and negatives. And indeed, I'm $25,000 ahead in the stock purchases that I've made based on their current stock price. So there we go. We're done with sheet 2. In sheet 3, this was a basic data filter. What it was asking us to do is display only the players with the 10 lowest total scores. Well, that's an indication that we're going to use some sort of filter So I'm going to highlight the whole thing. We're going to filter on the 10 lowest scores, essentially. So let's go see how we do that. We'll go into data. Notice I selected all of the range of data. I'm going to filter it. I know that there's a number filter I can apply, so I'm going to hit on total, number filters, and here's one called top 10. Well, what I want is the bottom 10. What do you want to bet if I click on top? I can change it to bottom. It's bottom 10 I need. If I needed to adjust that to say bottom 20, I could do that based on the items and say, okay, now this is as far as I wanted you to go. Some of you then went ahead and filtered this so that they were in order, from 1 through 12. Now we said bottom 10. Why are we seeing 12? Because there's some ties in there. See the 277s? So there's ties. That's why we're getting 12. Again, I want to encourage you. Go ahead, pause the video, grab the sheet, and practice it again. Sheet 4. This is a formula where it says insert a function in cell H4 that returns the word under if the player's total score is less than or equal to 288. Otherwise, return the word over. So if is the key word in there. If, that tells us probably we're going to use an if function. So we're going to say equals if. And matter of fact, I'm almost broke my own rule. Since I want you all to use the function dialog box, I'm going to call it up. There's the if function right there. So I'm going to call up that dialog box. Oops. Let me get back to the if function. There we are. And the first thing we're going to enter is our logical test. Let's go back down and see what it said. If the player's total score is less than or equal to 288. So I'm going to take their total score. In this case, in G4, I'm going to see if it is less than or equal to 288. In this case, it says true. It is less than or equal to 288. And if it is, we wanted to return under, otherwise return over. So I'm going to come in here. Remember, I always like to do the quotes. So if it's true, it's going to be under. And if it's false, it's going to be over. So remember the quotes when we put in text. It'll do that for you, but if you do it, you know exactly what got done in the formula. So this one should be under. Say, okay, it is under 288. I see the next one should be under. It looks like once I get down here, I should see an over. Let's see if we do. We do. So I've audited the formula, and I know it should be correct. If I wanted to, I could audit again. 292 is certainly over 288. So I'm getting the right numbers, 289. Now this one was actually really simple. A lot of you went ahead and tried to change the chart type instead of changing its style. So the directions say format the chart above using chart style 42. Well, if I click on the chart, I of course get the design and layout tabs and the formats. It's the design tab I want. Here's chart styles here. And I can just start working through, there's 20, 28. I'm heading in the right direction. 36, 44, 42. Apply the chart style, and off I go. Now the next one says, apply the first column style option to the bookstore revenue year table above. Well, here's my table. If I click anywhere in the table, I get a table designs tab. Let me go into that design tab, and under table style options, there's a first column style. If I apply that, you see the first column is bolded, and it brings out the items a little bit better. That's all I needed you to do on this one. For sheet 6, we are going to create a 2D line on this worksheet that shows the monthly revenues for only books and magazines. Now, the common mistake made here is you selected the totals as well, which means that's going to skew our chart. We don't want to select the totals unless that's the only thing we're charting. Okay, I'm going to do what's assigned, and then I'll show you a couple more examples of how we might use the total. But basically what I want to do is it says books and magazines. So I'm going to select the books and magazines for just the months. I'm going to insert. It asks me for a line chart, 2D line chart, and I am done. It really is that simple. Now let's see what happens if I select all of this, including the total, and insert a 2D line chart. Now this would be incorrect. By doing this, if you notice, it provides the total and skews my chart. Why? Well, because the total, of course, represents every single month. So this looks like whatever total is, whatever month total is, I need to do more of that. So this would be incorrect. But let me give you an example of when we might use just totals. I'm going to come in here and show the totals so that I can see which items sell the most over this period of time here. I'm going to select this. Now notice I'm not selecting the grand totals again. That again would skew my chart. I'm going to select the items. I'm going to select the totals for those items. And now I can do a chart. One of the things that works well for totals, because of course all of the totals here create a grand total, which is the whole or 100% of what we're trying to represent. So I'll do a 3D pie here. There's our 3D pie. Maybe I'll format this a little bit. And now you guys can play with formatting. So here's the total, and it represents, what portion of the total, the 33,307, is represented by books, magazines, coffee. As you can see, they're all pretty close. So I might want to use some data labels in here, okay, to better present the data. Since the items are so close together, we can see that clearly this blue, which is books, is our best-selling item. So I hope this answer sheet helps you, and you all have a great day. Keep practicing. Practice, practice, practice. I know I sound like a broken record, but when we practice, we build perfection. Take it easy.